Well, friends, it's 2024, and you know exactly what that means. It's the year of decision-making. Of course, by the end of the year, voters are going to have to make a decision, but it's not just voters, it's also candidates and political parties. You know, moving forward, Democrats are going to have to make a decision pretty quick here, whether or not they're running Joe Biden. But in the short term, there's really only one decision that's dominating the news cycle. There's one closely monitored decision that everybody's on the edge of their seat waiting to see what's going to be the answer, and that question is, who is going to be Donald Trump's vice presidential pick? Well, last night, Donald Trump confirmed a short list for VP, and one name on that list has people a little bit shocked because that individual isn't even a Republican. Twitter is absolutely bumping after the news. Let me update you guys on everything that's going on, and of course, we're going to have a conversation about this one. Let's talk about the potential strategy angle here. We got some stuff to get into, so let's roll the tape. All right, folks. So Donald Trump reveals, or rather Laura Ingraham reveals, then Donald Trump confirms who's on his short list for VP.
The audience has been asked who they think would be a good choice, and various names came up. One of them was, of course, Vivek Ramaswamy. Yeah. He's made a big splash. Ron DeSantis, who's making an appearance today in South Carolina, we just found out. Obviously, Tim Scott, Byron Donalds, and a big presence here for Tulsi Gabbard. Very interesting. And Kristi Noem as well, I should say. Right. Are they all on your short list? And when can we expect that you will announce your choice?
The one thing that always surprises me is that the VP choice has absolutely no impact. It's whoever the president is. It just seems. I remember when Sarah Palin was actually picked, and she did have a big up, and then they just went after her at a level that nobody's seen. The Republicans themselves went after what they did.
But you'll be a one-term president because you've already served, so you can only serve for one term, although they say you'll never leave office. I assume that you'll never leave. There'll never be another election
don't
again.
Don't do it. He'll never leave. He's never going. Oh, these people. They are
so for that reason, it is important who you pick.
So I think it's very important. But look, first is that, as we said, it has to do with whoever is, it's a very important position for that reason. You would like to get somebody that could help you from the voter standpoint. And honestly, all of those people are good. They're all good. They're all solid. And I always say I want people with common sense because there's so many things happening in this country that don't make sense. Who wants an open border? Who wants high interest rates? Who wants all electric vehicles? And they're fine, but you want to have choice. You want to go to combustion. You want to go to any hybrid. I think the hybrid are much better from that standpoint. But we were talking about faucets. We're talking about so much. It's all based on common sense. We want a strong military. We want choice in education. We want to have things that can really make our country great again. What we're doing with the open border is a disaster. We are destroying our country. We're going to change that fast, and we're going to get your energy prices down.
Mr. President, thank you so much for this.
Now, all the other names we've pretty much covered. I'm not going to go too much into Vivek Ramaswamy or the Tim Scotts of the world. The person I want to talk about today is Tulsi Gabbard. Now, obviously, the first thing that comes to mind when I mention the name Tulsi Gabbard is probably something along the lines of she's a Democrat. But let's go ahead and correct that or clarify that. Tulsi Gabbard used to be a Democrat. She's now an independent after making a conscious decision, I think in 2022, to officially retire the Democrat badge. So technically, Tulsi Gabbard is an independent. It's honestly a little bit difficult with these labels, but let's just say Tulsi Gabbard is a former Democrat. Let's call her that. I think that adds the appropriate context. So Donald Trump is implying that there's possibility, or at least they're considering, what people are dubbing a unity ticket, putting a Republican and a Democrat or somebody perceived as more left-wing on the same ticket to appeal to both sides. Now, I'm going to refrain as much as I can from making any declarative statements, declaring whether or not I think this is the best idea, the worst idea. It's really hard to say what's the best election strategy. I don't exactly have a magical 8-ball, but let's do our best to be as open-minded as possible and just discuss the ideas. We've discussed the strengths of Vivek Ramaswamy. Now, what are the strengths of a potential Tulsi Gabbard vice presidential pick? The first thing that comes to mind is the female aspect. Whether you like it or not, regardless of what your view is on abortion, the reality is that restrictive Republican stances have been slightly detrimental in terms of courting the female vote. And we see this when we look at ideological representation, or rather the split or increased divide between young men and young women. Young men are becoming increasingly conservative, but more than equally so, young females are becoming increasingly more left-wing. And obviously, the axing of Roe v. Wade has something to do with that. Democrats started a massive fear-mongering campaign, starting I think in March of 2022, that did have a significant impact. I think it would be delusional to deny that. Well, I guess the question is, would a female running mate who happens to be slightly left-leaning when it comes to social issues, help alleviate some of those issues? I'd say the answer is, well, it's possible. It is certainly possible, especially if you consider Donald Trump's stance on the issue. I mean, he's pro-life, but isn't staunchly so. I think he's gone on the record claiming that a 6-week ban, or a total outright ban, is a bad idea and would hurt Republicans. The reports are this week that Donald Trump is privately eyeing a 16-week national ban.
A policy issue that has been in the spotlight this week, abortion, Mara, because revelations, the New York Times first to report, NBC News has confirmed that Trump is considering backing a 16-week federal ban. He likes, I'm told, a nice round number. What do you make of this? What's the implications?
Well,
here?
there's two aspects of this. Democrats are going to say he's for a national ban. He doesn't want states to decide. Every blue state that's codified Roe, that's going to go in the garbage can. So that's one impact of it. But the second thing that I think is incredibly interesting is that Donald Trump is acting like a normal politician. He usually doesn't do that, but he's trying, if this story is true, to move to the center on abortion for the general election, to get more where the majority of voters are. And you know what? There is a consensus on abortion in this country. It used to be called Roe. 16 weeks is a little earlier than Roe, but people want abortion to either be mostly legal with some exceptions or mostly illegal with some exemption.
And if we look at the polling data, that seems to be where the majority view is. YouGov did a poll. Do you support or oppose a national ban on abortions after 16 weeks of pregnancy? The numbers are pretty clear, 48% support and 36% oppose. And look, if you're a strong pro-life advocate, for the most part, I'm on your side. Don't take this as if I'm promoting this type of idea. Thought process here, I guess the thought exercise here, is the political calculus of it all. If you're trying to get elected in the general, you have to appeal to the general view. Is it a good idea then for Donald Trump to pick someone like Tulsi Gabbard who can potentially bridge that gap, possibly bringing in independents or left-leaning Democrats who might be feeling disenfranchised in their own party? Does going after those voters make sense? That's the question. I don't know. I'm not exactly sure. I think we need some more polling data. I am, however, interestingly enough, thinking about Nikki Haley. Nikki Haley, in a way, kind of represents that view. Is she like Tulsi Gabbard? In a way, kind of also the polar opposite, especially on the issue of war and foreign interventionist policy. Specifically, if you look at Nikki Haley's polling numbers with independents and even some Democrats, it stands to reason that there might be demand for a female approach that's maybe a little bit softer on social issues. It is true to a certain extent that Nikki Haley does perform hypothetically well in a general election setting, and while her softened view on abortion, her sort of attempt to appeal to moderate Democrats, may be the factor behind those strong numbers. I think a CNN poll shows her 13 points ahead Joe Biden. Some people want to disregard that number instantly, and look, I want to as well, trust me, just as much as the next guy, but maybe there's something to that number, and maybe there's a general election calculus to this. My personal view is that I'd love to see Vivek Ramaswamy as Donald Trump's running mate, but I do also consider the potential that Vivek, well, he might be a little bit too hardcore, let's use that word, I guess for lack of a better term. The question that I'm asking is, would Vivek as VP alienate more moderates than it would help bring to the table, or would he make up for it by bringing a bunch of young, youthful voters or new voters that we're not accounting for? I don't know. The reality is here that there's a risk in every decision that you make. Do you sacrifice a little bit and meet on the middle on certain issues in order to, I guess, poach a little bit from the Democrat side, potentially leading to general election success, or do you go full frickin' MAGA train, taking on the deep state ticket as the headline strategy? Not exactly sure I'd even say that, those kinds of decisions are well above my pay grade, but there certainly are some interesting options here. A potential Trump-Tulsi Gabbard ticket, the foreign policy approach alone, might be enough to sell it. The question is, are Republican voters willing to compromise on very important issues like abortion and others? We'll have to see what the polling data suggests, but this is the update on the Trump vice presidential sweepstakes. Tulsi Gabbard's name skyrockets to the top of the list. Of course, let me know what you guys think in the comment section. Who would be the best person for the job? Let me know in the comments. If you like the video, leave a like. If you want to join us here, possibly subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.